My father's a principal, and we would sit through assemblies on drugs, but yet we didn't learn anything about health. We'd have a health class that had a course or had a section on mental health, and in mental health we learned that depression is sadness, anxiety is being nervous, and PTSD is exclusively for soldiers or people who fought more, and couldn't be further from the case. So you don't feel like you relate to any of those things. Meanwhile, those are the exact things that could develop. I'll tell you, the ironic thing about it is when I was going through the most intense version of the PTSD, my brain was so dysfunctional that I would tell people, they would ask me, what does it feel like to be going through this? And I would say I would wake up and I'd go throughout the whole day without an original thought coming to my head. I had family come down and visit, and I told them I was losing my brain, was the way that I described it. And for some reason in the back of my mind, I always had this vision of, if I get out of this, there's a way for me to help people.
And this PTSD developed because of compound trauma, because I'd seen so many things growing up. My brother had broken his femur bone, had cracked his head open in a Jeep accident, went through cancer twice, was in a coma because of septic shock from the chemo treatments, had a shunt put in his brain, needed a kidney transplant. It was just one thing after another, and then I had 3 of my close friends pass away back to back to back, and that affects the system.
So I graduate Cornell University. I'm lucky enough to get my dream job right out of school, working in a highly competitive sports industry. I stay in it for 15 years, life is feeling good, and out of nowhere, bam, I can't get out of my bed for 2.5 years. I'm sent into shock therapy, and I look back and I have no idea how I ended up there.
I was given 50 different psychotropic drug medications, TMS therapy, ECT, inpatient at a psych ward, and none of it worked for me.
They were treating me like I had a learning disability and need to clear my brain, and not like I had trauma that had shut down my central nervous system, that I needed to cleanse the anxiety and the trauma out of my system. So my symptoms were only getting worse from their treatments. So I was basically a vegetable laying in bed. I couldn't control myself. And when I got to that point, it was time to go to the hospital.
It wasn't until I actually learned how to heal my central nervous system naturally through practices and therapies that I got better.
After sharing my story on social media, just for the purposes of helping people, I started to get reached out to by people as far as China. You start hearing the same thing over and over again, you start to notice patterns of, everyone has a different story, but they are very similar. So the question was, how are you actually going to change what's going on in society and make a real impact and a real difference if the stories of these amazing athletes and celebrities is not doing it, what is going to do it? And my vision was, they each have their own great individual platforms, but they're being trumped by this overall message of there's mental illness out there. And no one wants to raise their hand and say, I'm part of the mentally ill group.
Mental health lives on a spectrum. There is no such thing as normal. We're all a little crazy. So we developed this campaign called SameHere,
In sign language.
which basically means I've gone through things in life myself. I'm just like you. It's okay to open up and to ask for help. And we use our platforms to be vulnerable, to open up, and to allow other people to feel comfortable sharing with us and asking for help.
And I feel like I have teammates now that are all going towards the same goal, so I feel like I'm back in a team sport. So to me, it's really exciting.
It's cool, like having talked to so many people, and now, I mean,
Thank you, man. Well, it's cool for me to meet them. That's the, not because, I tell them all the time, not because they're athletes and I am an athlete chaser, more because I just respect them for telling their stories,